The smell of disinfectant and burnt coffee from 4 hours ago was all that Claire could register in that early morning darkness. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the styrofoam cup, the bitter black liquid her only companion in the empty waiting room of St. Michael's Medical Center. It was 3:15 on a Friday morning, and the freezing corridor of the emergency department echoed with distant sounds of gurneys being wheeled and monitors beeping their relentless rhythm. Claire pushed back the chestnut hair falling across her shoulders, trying to shake off the exhaustion weighing down every muscle in her body. 18 hours into a double shift as a nurse, and she still had 4 more to go before she could collapse. She had no choice. The overdue rent, the electricity bill flashing red warnings, and most importantly, most critically, her father's treatment. Stage 4, lung cancer. The doctors had given him 6 months without the experimental chemotherapy. Chemotherapy that cost the equivalent of 3 years of Claire's salary. Nurse Bennett, patient in bed 7, pressures dropping. The worn voice of the nursing assistant yanked her from dark thoughts. Claire jumped to her feet, abandoning the half-finished coffee, and sprinted toward the bed. Another emergency, another life in her hands, another hour where she couldn't afford to think about her own problems. The patient stabilized after 20 minutes of effort. Claire washed her hands in the staff bathroom sink, avoiding her own reflection in the mirror. She knew what she would see. Deep circles under her eyes, pale skin from someone who hadn't seen sunlight in weeks, and that look of someone hanging on by a thread. Her phone buzzed in her scrub pocket. A notification from the bank, account overdrawn. Fees will be charged. Claire bit her lower lip hard enough to hurt. She breathed deeply 3 times, a technique she'd learned in nursing school to control anxiety. It didn't work. Bennett, can you cover 4 more hours? Johnson can't make it in. The head nurse appeared in the doorway, her tone already assuming an affirmative answer. Claire hesitated. It was 3:30 in the morning. If she stayed another 4 hours, she'd complete 22 hours straight. I'll pay double overtime, the supervisor added, almost as if reading Claire's thoughts. Double overtime. That meant another $320, almost nothing compared to the $135,000 she needed for the treatment. But it was something. It was always something. I'll stay, Claire heard her own voice say, distant, as if it belonged to someone else. The head nurse nodded briefly and left without a thank you. Claire returned to the break room, grabbed her phone, and opened her father's contact. She needed to call him, needed to hear that raspy but still steady voice of the man who'd raised her alone after her mother abandoned them when Claire was only 4 years old. The man who worked 3 jobs to pay for her college. The man who now lay wasting away in a substandard hospital bed across town because his insurance wouldn't cover the necessary treatment. Claire dialed the number. Her father's phone rang once, twice, 3 times, nothing. She frowned. He always answered even in the middle of the night, especially in the middle of the night when the pain was worse and sleep wouldn't come. She hung up and tried again. Maybe she'd misdialed. Exhaustion was making her hands shake. This time, someone picked up on the second ring. Dad, sorry for calling so late. I just wanted to, Claire began, but a male voice interrupted her, a voice that definitely wasn't her father's. You've reached a wrong number. The voice was deep, controlled, with a tone of authority that made Claire straighten instinctively. It wasn't aggressive, but there was something in the way the man spoke that demanded attention. Each word was pronounced with calculated precision, like someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Oh, I'm sorry, Claire stammered. feeling her face heat with embarrassment even though she was alone in the room. I must have dialed wrong. I was trying to call my... Don't hang up! The command came quick, cutting. Claire froze, with her thumb hovering over the red end call button. Why didn't he want her to hang up? A chill ran down her spine. Stories of phone scams, kidnappings, extortions flooded her mind. Look, I really need to... She started, but he interrupted again. You're at St. Michael's Medical Center. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Claire felt her blood run cold. How did he know where she was? She hadn't said anything. Her eyes darted around the empty break room, suddenly paranoid. Were there cameras? Was someone watching her? How do you know where I am? Her voice came out higher than she intended, betraying the fear beginning to settle in. On the other side of the line there was a pause. Claire could hear controlled breathing, and in the background, distant sounds that could be muffled voices. Then he spoke, and this time there was something different in his tone, something almost curious. You're a nurse. Again, not a question, as if he were reading information about her somewhere. You're tired. I can hear it in your voice. Claire looked at the phone in her hand as if the device could give her answers. This was insane. She should hang up immediately. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the extreme exhaustion affecting her judgment. Maybe it was the loneliness of that endless early morning. Or maybe it was simply curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice recovering some firmness. Years working emergencies had taught her not to show fear, even when she felt it. "Someone who doesn't usually receive calls from strangers at 3:30 in the morning," he responded, and Claire swore she detected a trace of humor in his voice, but this one was interesting. "No, look, it was an honest mistake. I was just trying to call my father and..." "Your father is sick." Again a statement. Claire felt her heart tighten in her chest. "That's why you're working double shifts. Triple, maybe." The tears came without warning, burning her eyes. How could this stranger know these things? And why, instead of terrifying her completely, was there something almost comforting in the way he spoke, as if he understood, as if he knew exactly what she was going through? "Who are you?" Claire whispered, wiping the tears with the back of her hand. "Call me Vincent," he said, and for the first time since he answered, his voice sounded almost gentle. "And you, nurse from St. Michael's, who dials wrong numbers at 3 in the morning, what's your name?" Claire should hang up. All her rationality screamed at her to hang up. But there was something hypnotic about that voice, something that kept her tethered to the call like an invisible thread connecting them both. "Claire," she heard her own voice answer. "My name is Claire." Claire. The way he pronounced her name, with that deep, velvety voice, made something strange happen in her stomach, as if each syllable were a caress. "It's a beautiful name." "Means bright, doesn't it?" "Yes," she replied, surprised he knew. My father was a teacher before he got sick, and you take care of him alone." It wasn't a question. Vincent seemed to have the disturbing ability to simply know things, without anyone's help. "I don't have anyone else," Claire confessed, and wondered why she was being so open with a complete stranger. Maybe because he was a stranger. Sometimes it's easier to confess truths to those we don't know. "My mother left us when I was a child. I don't have siblings. My dad is all I have." There was another silence on the other end of the line. Claire could hear her own heart beating too fast. Then Vincent asked something that caught her completely off guard. How much does the treatment cost, Claire? She blinked, confused. What? The treatment for your father? How much? Claire laughed, a sound without humor. 135,000, more than I'll earn in 3 years working here. I'm trying to get loans from every bank, but none approve. My credit's maxed out from trying so much. 135,000, Vincent repeated, and there was something in his voice, something Claire couldn't identify. That's a high amount for you, but not for me. Claire's heart raced. What do you mean by that? I mean, Vincent paused as if carefully choosing his words. That I could solve your problem, Claire. All of them. Your father's treatment, your debts, everything. With a single phone call. Claire felt a knot in her stomach. Nothing was free. She wasn't naive. And what do you want in return? Vincent laughed, a low, rich sound that reverberated through the line. Smart. Very good. The truth, I don't know yet, but when I decide, you'll know. That sounds like some Mafia movie, Claire said, trying to joke, but with a trembling voice. The silence that followed was deafening. When Vincent finally spoke, his voice was different, colder, more dangerous. Mafia movie, he repeated, but didn't sound amused. Interesting that you say that, Claire. A second later, the line went dead. Claire stood frozen, staring at the phone in her hand, heart pounding in her chest. What had just happened? Who was that man? And why did she feel a shiver of fear mixed with something she couldn't name? Before she could process anything, her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number, the same number she'd accidentally called. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Rossi's Italian Gold Coast. Come alone. Don't be late. V. Below the message, a second notification arrived. A bank transfer. Claire opened the banking app with trembling fingers. $150,000 deposited into her account. The break room seemed to spin around her. Claire had to sit down before her legs failed. 150,000. More than enough for her father's treatment, more than enough to pay all the debts, from a complete stranger. A stranger who apparently didn't like when she mentioned the Mafia. Claire was in trouble. She knew it deep in her soul, but when she looked at the account balance, when she thought of her father wasting away in a hospital, when she thought of all the sleepless nights trying to find a solution, she had no choice. Not really. At 8 p.m. the next day, she would be at Rossi's Italian. What could possibly go wrong? Claire didn't sleep that day. When her shift finally ended at 7 in the morning, she went straight to the hospital where her father was admitted. She spent the morning beside him, holding his hand while he slept under the effect of morphine, and didn't mention anything about the money mysteriously deposited in her account. How could she explain? Dad, I called a stranger by mistake in the middle of the night. He found out our entire life somehow, gave me $150,000, and now I'm having dinner with him. It sounded insane, even to herself. At 2 in the afternoon, Claire finally went home. Her small one-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park was modest, but it was hers. Or would be when she could pay the 3 months of overdue rent. Now she could. Now she had money. Money that came from a man she didn't know, who knew too much about her, and who clearly had connections she didn't even want to think about. But the money was real. She'd checked 3 times. It wasn't a scam, wasn't a bank error. It was real. Claire allowed herself a long shower, letting the hot water wash away days of double shifts. Then she went to her closet and stopped, staring at the few clothes she owned. What does one wear to dinner with a possible criminal who saved your father's life? She settled on a simple black dress, the only one she had that could be considered presentable for an expensive restaurant. Rossi's Italian was the kind of place she saw in magazines but never imagined stepping foot in. A high-end Italian restaurant in the Gold Coast, frequented by Chicago's elite. At 7:30, Claire called an Uber. Her hands were sweating as she clutched her small purse in her lap during the entire ride. The driver tried to make conversation, but she barely responded, lost in increasingly anxious thoughts. "We're here, miss," the driver announced, and Claire looked out the window at the restaurant ahead. Elegant facade, valet at the door, and people in expensive outfits coming and going. She didn't belong there. But she got out of the car anyway. A host at the entrance looked her up and down with thinly disguised disdain when she approached. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "I think so." Under Claire, she hesitated. She didn't even know Vincent's last name. Vincent? The change in the host was instantaneous. His eyes widened, his posture straightened, and he made an almost imperceptible bow. "Miss Bennet, of course. Mr. Kane is waiting. Please follow me." Claire followed him into the restaurant, her heart accelerating with each step. The place was even more impressive inside. Crystal chandeliers, tables with impeccable white tablecloths, expensive wine glasses, and in the most private corner, at a table strategically positioned with its back to the wall and a view of the entire restaurant, there he was. Claire stopped halfway, unable to take another step. It wasn't fair that a man could be so striking. Vincent was seated with a relaxed but absolutely authoritative posture, wearing a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her car. Dark hair combed back, strong jaw with a few days of stubble. And when he raised his eyes to meet hers, Claire forgot how to breathe. His eyes were a brown so dark they almost looked black under the restaurant's soft lighting. Intense, penetrating, as if they could see right through her, read every thought, every fear. A thin scar crossed his left eyebrow, the only flaw in a face that seemed carved from stone. Vincent stood when she approached, a gesture of old-fashioned chivalry that caught her by surprise. He was tall, very tall. Claire was 5'5", but he made her feel small, fragile. Claire. The voice was the same from the call, but in person it had a completely different impact, rich, deep, with that natural tone of command. "You came. You deposited $150,000 in my account," she said, trying to sound firm but coming out shaky, kind of hard to ignore. A smile touched his lips, small, controlled, but genuine. "Please, sit." Claire sat, and immediately a waiter appeared from nowhere to pull out her chair, place the napkin in her lap, pour water. Service she didn't even know existed outside of movies. "Wine?" Vincent asked, already gesturing to the sommelier. I don't drink much," Claire confessed. "I'm a nurse. I see too many bad things happen because of alcohol." Vincent stopped, his hand suspended in the air, and looked at her with a new intensity. "Nurse," he repeated as if the word meant something more to him. "You save lives." "I try," she said simply. The sommelier arrived with a bottle of red wine that probably cost more than Claire's monthly salary. Vincent ordered them to serve just one glass, his and French mineral water for her. "So," Claire said when they were alone again, "are you going to tell me who you really are, or do I have to guess?" Vincent rested his elbows on the table, interlaced his fingers, and studied her for a long moment. Claire forced herself to hold his gaze, even though every cell in her body screamed at her to look down, to submit to this obvious alpha. "You're brave," he said finally. "More than I thought." Most people tremble when they look me in the eyes. "Should I be trembling?" Claire asked, and this time she managed to inject some defiance into her voice. His smile widened, showing perfect teeth. "Probably, if you knew who I am." "Then tell me." Vincent picked up his wine glass, slowly swirled the dark red liquid, and took a small sip before responding. "You mentioned something about the Mafia in our call. Remember?" Claire's blood ran cold. "That was a stupid joke, wasn't it?" Vincent said, setting down the glass with calculated precision. "It was instinct, and your instinct was correct." The restaurant seemed to grow quieter, or maybe it was just Claire's sensation, with blood pounding in her ears. "You're telling me that—" "I'm Vincent Kane," he said, the name weighing in the air between them like a confession. "And I control Chicago." Claire felt the chair press against her back, only then realizing she'd leaned back instinctively, trying to put distance between them. You're kidding." "I never joke about business," Vincent responded, his voice still calm but with steel behind it now. "And you, Claire, accidentally called the most dangerous man in this city. The man politicians fear, businessmen pay to keep happy. The man who," he paused, "makes people who displease him disappear. Claire should be terrified, should get up and run." But instead she found her voice. "Then why am I still alive? Why did you give me money?" Vincent leaned forward, and suddenly the space between them shrank to almost nothing. Claire could feel the heat radiating from him, smell the expensive cologne and something essentially masculine, dangerous. "Because," he said, voice low, intimate, in 15 years doing what I do, nobody has ever asked me how I was. You didn't know who I was, and your first reaction when you realized I was awake at 3 in the morning was concern. You asked if I was okay. Remember?" Claire blinked. She had asked, didn't remember. The call had been a blur of confusion and fear and exhaustion. "Nobody asks me that," Vincent continued. "People are afraid, want things, use me. But genuine concern, that's rare. So you gave me $150,000 because I was polite." Claire couldn't believe what she was hearing. "I gave you 150,000, Vincent corrected. "Because I wanted to, because I can, and because for the first time in a very long time, someone made me feel human." The waiter appeared to take orders, breaking the moment of tension. Vincent ordered for both without consulting Claire, carbonara pasta for her, filet with mushroom sauce for me, with the confidence of someone accustomed to making decisions without asking permission. When they were alone again, Claire gathered courage. "What do you want from me, Vincent?" He rested his chin on one hand, looking at her with that impossible intensity. "Honestly, I still don't know, but there's something about you, something that's kept me restless since that call. It's not just the beauty, though you are stunning. It's the strength, the way you carry the weight alone, the loyalty to your father. You intrigue me, Claire." "I'm not interesting," she protested. "I'm just a nurse trying to survive." "You're so much more than that," Vincent said with conviction. "But you don't know it yet. Let me show you." "Show what?" "That you don't have to do this alone. That you can have more. Be more." He extended his hand across the table, palm up. "An invitation. Let me take care of you, Claire, and your father." Claire looked at his hand, large, with calluses that shouldn't be there on someone who wore suits like that. Hands that had undoubtedly done terrible things, but that also saved her father's life with a single phone call. "I'm not stupid," she said. "I know nothing's free. You'll want something in return." "Yes," Vincent agreed without trying to deny, "but not now, not until you're ready." "Ready for what?" His eyes darkened, that almost black-brown becoming even deeper. "To be mine." Claire's heart skipped a beat, then another. I don't understand." "You will," Vincent promised, finally taking her hand on the table. His fingers wrapped around hers completely, warm and firm. "In time. But for now, have dinner with me, talk with me. Let me know you, Claire. And let me show you what I can do for you." The food arrived, and Claire discovered she was hungry, really hungry for the first time in weeks. They ate and talked, and slowly, very slowly, Claire felt the tension begin to relax from her shoulders. Vincent was surprising. Yes, he was clearly dangerous. There was an aura of contained threat around him, like a predator that could strike at any moment. But he was also intelligent, articulate, and had a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard more than once. He asked about her work, seemed genuinely interested in her stories from the ER, listened when she talked about her father with an attention that made her feel seen, really seen, for the first time in so long. The 3 weeks following the dinner at Rossi's Italian were the strangest of Claire's life. Vincent didn't disappear. On the contrary, he became a constant presence, though discreet in her routine. Flowers arrived at the hospital every day. Not flashy bouquets, but elegant arrangements of white lilies, her favorite flower, which she'd mentioned casually during dinner. Her father started treatment at the best private hospital in Chicago, in a private suite that Claire knew she couldn't afford in 10 lifetimes. And Vincent called every day at 3 p.m., when he knew Claire had a break in her shift. Conversations that started about nothing and ended up lasting an hour. He wanted to know about her day, about the patients, about how her father was responding to treatment. Claire found herself waiting for those calls, found herself smiling when she saw his name on the screen, found herself late at night wondering what it would be like to be kissed by that dangerous man who treated her like she was made of glass. But reality came knocking on a rainy Thursday. Claire was leaving the hospital, exhausted after another double shift, when a man approached her in the parking lot. She didn't recognize him immediately. 2 years had passed since the divorce, but when he stepped closer under the light of the lampposts, her stomach turned. "Hi, Claire?" Derek's voice was exactly as she remembered, oily, feigning sympathy, but with venom underneath. "It's been a while." Claire stopped halfway to her car, keys clutched in her hand like an improvised weapon. "What do you want, Derek?" Her ex-husband smiled. That smile she'd once found charming and now recognized as predatory. "Just came to see how you're doing. Heard things have gotten better for you. Expensive treatment for your dad. Flowers every day." He took a step closer. "Someone must be bankrolling you, huh?" Claire's heart accelerated. How did he know these things? None of your business. "I think it is," Derek retorted, the mask of sympathy falling completely. "Because I know who your new boyfriend is. Vincent Kane, Chicago's mob boss." He laughed, a sound without humor. "You always were too uptight, Claire. Never thought you'd sleep with a criminal to get cash." Claire's hand flew before she could think, connecting with his cheek in a resounding slap. Derek staggered, surprised, and then his eyes darkened with rage. "You bitch," he advanced, but stopped abruptly when a figure emerged from the shadows behind Claire. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The voice was calm, almost polite, but there was steel in it. Claire turned and saw a tall man in a dark suit with a scar across his entire face. One of Vincent's men. She recognized him from photos Vincent had shown her. Lucas, his right-hand man. "Step away from the lady," Lucas continued, taking a step forward. He didn't make threatening gestures, didn't need to. His mere presence was threat enough. Now Derek raised his hands in false surrender. "Hey, easy. I was just having a conversation with my ex-wife." "The conversation's over," Lucas said. And suddenly there were 3 other men emerging from the shadows, all dressed in black, all with the same aura of contained violence. "Leave now, and don't come back." Derek looked from Claire to the men and back. "This isn't over, Claire. You're gonna give me my cut, or I'll tell everyone who's really supporting you." He took a step back. "You have my number. 2 days, 50,000, or the whole world's gonna know you're Moret's whore." And then he was gone, running to an old car parked across the street. Claire stood frozen, trembling as the adrenaline began to fade. Lucas approached carefully as if she were a frightened animal. "Ma'am, Mr. Kane needs to know about this." "No," Claire said quickly. "No, I'll handle this myself." Lucas looked at her with something that could be pity. "I'm sorry, Mom, but that's not how this works. Mr. Kane left very clear orders. Any threat to you, he's informed immediately." Before Claire could protest, Lucas already had his phone out, speaking in a low, urgent voice. Claire could only make out a few words: ex-husband, extortion, hospital parking lot. 3 minutes later, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. The back door opened, and there was Vincent, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Get in the car, Claire." It wasn't a request. Claire wanted to argue, wanted to say she could handle it herself, that she didn't need him fighting her battles. But one look at his face made her swallow her words and get in the vehicle. Vincent got in behind her and slammed the door. The driver took off before she could put her seatbelt on. For a long moment, nobody said anything. Claire could feel the tension radiating from Vincent in almost palpable waves. "Did he hurt you?" Vincent's voice was so low it was almost a growl. "No, Did he hurt you?" Vincent roared, turning to face her with wild eyes. Claire had never heard him like this. The polite man from the restaurant, the gentle voice from the daily calls, all of that had vanished. What remained was the predator, the crime boss, the man who made other men disappear. "No," Claire said firmly, refusing to cower. "He didn't get the chance. Your men showed up." Something in Vincent's posture relaxed marginally. He ran a hand through his hair, breathing deeply 3 times. When he spoke again, his voice was more controlled, but still dangerous. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." Claire told him about Derek appearing, the accusations, the demand for money, the threats. As she spoke, she saw Vincent's knuckles turn white where he gripped the seat. 50,000, Vincent repeated when she finished. "He wants 50,000, or he'll spread that you're with me." "I can pay you back the money," Claire said quickly. "Little by little, with interest, whatever you want. Just don't do anything to him. Please. I don't want you to do something that..." "That what?" Vincent interrupted. "Gets me arrested." "Sweetheart, men like me don't get arrested. And men like him..." His eyes narrowed. "Men like him simply disappear." "Vincent, no." Claire grabbed his hand, forcing him to look at her. "Not because of me. I don't want you to be the monster everyone says you are. Not for me." For a moment, Vincent just stared at her, those dark eyes impossible to read. Then, slowly, something changed in his expression. The anger didn't vanish, but it was tempered by something else, surprise, perhaps, or tenderness. "You don't understand," he said quietly, turning his hand to interlace his fingers with hers. "You don't understand what you are to me. Then explain." Vincent released her hand and leaned back in the seat, looking out the window at the city lights passing by. "I had a sister, Sophia, 3 years younger than me. She was the light of our family. Sweet, kind, always saw the best in people." Claire stayed quiet, sensing this was a story Vincent rarely told. When she was 23, she married a guy, Leonardo. He seemed good family, stable job. My parents approved. Vincent laughed bitterly. I was building my empire, too busy to pay attention. What happened? He beat her, Vincent said, his voice so cold Claire felt a chill. For 2 years she hid the bruises, lied about the injuries. I only found out when it was too late. One night he went too far. She didn't make it. Claire covered her mouth with her hand, tears burning her eyes. "Vincent, I'm so sorry. You want to know what happened to him?" Vincent looked at her, and Claire saw a darkness there that frightened and intrigued her at the same time. He disappeared 3 days after her funeral. And you know what? Nobody ever found the body. Nobody ever will. Claire should be horrified, should be terrified. But all she felt was a deep understanding. That's why you don't tolerate men who hurt women. That's why, Vincent confirmed. And that's why, Claire, when I see a man threatening you, extorting you, using fear to control you. He leaned closer, eyes burning. Every instinct in me screams to do to him what I did to Leonardo. "But you won't," Claire said, though it didn't sound like a question. "I won't," Vincent agreed reluctantly. "Because you asked me to. Because you look at me and see more than the monster. You see the man." And that, he touched her face with surprising gentleness, that's a gift nobody's given me in a long time. Claire leaned into his touch, heart pounding hard in her chest. "So what do we do about Derek?" A slow, dangerous smile curved Vincent's lips. "Leave him to me. I won't hurt him, but by tomorrow morning he'll wish I had." "Vincent?" "Trust me," he said. And there was a vulnerability in those words that Claire didn't expect from a man like him. "Let me protect you my way. Just trust me." And Claire, against all logic, against all common sense, heard her own voice whisper, "I trust you." The relief on Vincent's face was visible. He pulled her into an embrace, face buried in her hair, and Claire could feel his heartbeat against her chest. Fast, strong, human. "Come with me," Vincent murmured against her hair, "to my place tonight. I don't want you alone. Not until I'm sure he got the message." "Vincent, I have work tomorrow." "I already spoke to your supervisor. You have the next 3 days off, paid." He pulled back enough to look her in the eyes. "Please, Claire. Let me take care of you, at least for a few days." Claire should have said no, should have maintained distance, maintained boundaries. But when she looked into those dark eyes, when she saw the genuine concern mixed with desire, she couldn't refuse. "Okay," she whispered. 3 days. The smile Vincent gave in response could have lit up the entire city. Vincent's mansion was in an exclusive Chicago neighborhood, hidden behind high walls and discreet but omnipresent security. When the gate opened and they drove in, Claire had to suppress a gasp. The place was spectacular. 3 floors of modern architecture with large glass windows offering panoramic views of the city, perfectly maintained gardens, an illuminated pool, and a garage where Claire counted at least 8 luxury cars. "It's a lot," Vincent said almost sheepishly as he helped her out of the car. "I know, but it's my refuge, the only place where I can just be." Inside was even more impressive. Minimalist, elegant decor. Artwork Claire only saw in museums, marble floors that gleamed. But what caught her attention were the personal details. Framed photos on a shelf, books, so many books stacked beside a fireplace, a guitar leaning in a corner. "You play?" Claire asked, pointing to the instrument. Vincent followed her gaze and smiled crookedly. "My mother insisted Sophia and I learn. She said every mobster should have a soul, even if buried deep." "Your mother had a sense of humor," Claire observed. "Had," Vincent corrected gently. "She died 5 years ago." "Cancer." He took Claire's hand. "Come, let me show you your room." They climbed a marble staircase to the second floor. Vincent led her down a hallway with several doors until he stopped at a specific one. "Here, it has everything you need. Clothes, toiletries, whatever else you want. If anything's missing, just let me know." Claire opened the door and stood speechless. The suite was bigger than her entire apartment, an enormous bed with sheets that looked like clouds, a marble bathroom with a bathtub and rain shower, a walk-in closet filled with clothes in her size. "How did you—" She turned to Vincent. "How do you have clothes in my size?" He had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have asked an assistant to purchase some things, just as a precaution." "Precaution?" Claire repeated, fighting a smile. "You were planning to bring me here." "Hoping," Vincent corrected. "Hoping for the right opportunity." He approached her, raising his hand to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Claire!" Yes. For a moment, Vincent just looked at her, as if memorizing every detail. Then he let his hand fall. "My room is right there." He gestured to the door next to hers. "If you need anything at all, I'll be there." "Vincent," Claire called when he started to turn away. When he looked back, she took a step forward and before she could question the decision, stood on her toes and pressed her lips to his. For a fraction of a second, Vincent was motionless, surprised. Then something in him broke loose. His arms wrapped around Claire, pulling her against his body, while he deepened the kiss with a passion that left her dizzy. It wasn't Claire's first kiss, but it was the first that made her feel like she was catching fire from the inside out, like every nerve ending was ablaze. Vincent's hands were in her hair, on her face, on her waist, as if he couldn't decide where to touch her first. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "I was trying to be a gentleman," he murmured. "Give you time. Not rush things." "Maybe I don't want you to be a gentleman," Claire whispered back, surprised at her own boldness. "Don't say things like that. Not when my self-control is already hanging by a thread." Claire laughed, the sound light and genuine. Something she hadn't done in a long time. "Then maybe we go slow, but not too slow." "Slow I can do," Vincent said, stealing another quick kiss. "But right now you need to rest. Tomorrow I'll show you something important." "What?" His smile was mysterious. "You'll see. Good night, Claire. Dream of me." And with one more lingering kiss he was gone, closing the door softly behind him. Claire stood there, fingers on her lips still tingling, heart beating like a drum. She was in trouble, big trouble, because she was falling in love with Vincent Kane, and men like him didn't have happy endings, or did they? Claire got ready for bed, putting on one of the ridiculously expensive silk pajamas from the closet and nestling into the soft sheets. For the first time in months, she slept through the night without nightmares. The next morning, she was awakened by the smell of coffee and fresh bread. She followed the aroma to a huge kitchen on the ground floor, where she found Vincent in front of the stove in a white t-shirt and sweatpants making breakfast. "You cook?" Claire asked incredulously. Vincent turned, smiling when he saw her. "My mother insisted. Said a man who can't cook doesn't know how to take care of anyone." He gestured to the already set table. "Sit. Coffee's ready." They had breakfast together, a scene so domestic and normal that Claire almost forgot she was in the home of a crime boss. Almost. "I spoke with Derek," Vincent said casually while pouring more coffee for her. Claire froze. "What? When?" "Early this morning. Had a very enlightening conversation with him." Vincent's smile was predatory. He decided to relocate, far away, like another state, and he agreed it wouldn't be wise to keep trying to contact you or tell stories about you. "How did you—" "I showed him some photos," Vincent said simply, "of what happens to people who threaten what's mine. Made it very clear that disappearing to another state was preferable to the other kind of disappearing I could arrange. Claire should be shocked, should be horrified. But all she felt was relief. He's leaving, already gone. Took a bus to Milwaukee this morning. Won't be coming back." Vincent reached for her hand across the table. "You're safe, I promise." "Thank you," Claire whispered, interlacing her fingers with his. "Now," Vincent stood, pulling her with him, "I want to show you something." He guided her through the back of the house to an area Claire hadn't seen the night before, a large green space with several structures that looked like dog houses. And then Claire saw them. Dogs, at least 15 of them, all sizes and breeds, running freely around the yard. 2 staff members were caring for them, feeding and playing. "You have a dog shelter?" Claire turned to Vincent, mouth open. He shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly looking self-conscious. "I rescue the ones I find on the streets, or the ones my men find. Take care of them here until I find homes. Some stay, most find families." Claire felt something completely melt in her chest. This man feared throughout the city, had a private shelter for rescued dogs. "You can interact with them if you want," Vincent offered. "They're friendly." Claire didn't hesitate. She entered the space and was immediately surrounded by wagging tails and slobbering tongues. She laughed, really laughed, as the dogs jumped around her seeking attention. Vincent watched with a soft smile, leaning against the fence. Seeing Claire there, laughing and playing with the dogs, her hair shining in the sunlight, her face lit with genuine joy, was like taking a punch to the chest. He was hopelessly in love with her. Claire spent the entire morning with the dogs, and then Vincent showed her the rest of the property, the gardens, the pool, the personal library that made her eyes light up. "Can I use it?" she asked, fingers caressing the spines of books. "Everything that's mine is yours," Vincent said, and there was deep truth in those words. Always. They had lunch together, dinner together. Vincent cancelled all meetings, ignored all business calls. For that day, Claire had his complete attention. In the evening, they sat on the terrace overlooking the city, sharing a bottle of wine. Juice for Claire, who still didn't drink. The silence between them was comfortable, filled only by the distant sound of traffic and the chirping of crickets. "Thank you," Claire said suddenly, "for all of this, for making me feel safe, protected, cared for." Vincent turned to look at her, and in the soft light of the lanterns she could see every emotion on his face. Desire, tenderness, possessiveness, and something deeper, something dangerous, Claire, he began, voice hoarse, I need to tell you something before this goes any further. Before it's too late for you to leave. Her heart accelerated. What? Vincent stood, walking to the railing, his back to her. I'm not good. You need to understand that. I've done things, terrible things, hurt people, given orders that took lives. I have blood on my hands, Claire. A lot of blood. Claire stood too, approaching him. I know who you are. No. Vincent turned abruptly. You don't know. You see this version of me. The man who rescues dogs and makes breakfast. But there's a side of me that's pure darkness, violence, cruelty when necessary. And that side... He closed his eyes. That side will never go away. Claire took another step until she was directly in front of him. You think I'm naive, that I don't know what I'm getting into? You're too good for me. Let me decide that, Claire said firmly. She took his hands, forcing him to look at her. You think I don't see the darkness? I do, but I also see the man who calls me every day to make sure I'm okay. The man who paid for my father's treatment without asking for anything. The man who has a shelter for abandoned dogs. You're not just the monster, Vincent. You're so much more. And what if the monster is what stays? Vincent's voice broke. What if I can't be what you need? Then we'll figure it out together, Claire said, because I'm not going anywhere. Vincent's eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, for fear, found only conviction. How did I get so lucky? He whispered, pulling her into his arms. You dialed a wrong number, Claire said with a small smile. Best mistake I ever made. Mine too. Vincent lowered his head, capturing her lips in a kiss that was different from the others, slower, deeper, full of promise. When they separated, both knew something fundamental had shifted between them. This wasn't just attraction anymore. This was something much bigger, much more dangerous. If you're watching this and you've ever taken a chance on someone everyone said was wrong for you, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you answer if a stranger said don't hang up? Or would you have run the other way? Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this story ends, because trust me, it's about to get intense. The next morning brought a harsh return to reality. Claire woke to the sound of shouting downstairs. She threw on a robe and rushed down to find Vincent in the living room, phone pressed to his ear, face a mask of cold fury. I don't care what excuses he has, Vincent said, voice like ice. He had 72 hours. Time's up. Handle it. He ended the call and turned to find Claire standing in the doorway. The fury on his face melted immediately, replaced by concern. I'm sorry. Did I wake you? What's going on? Work, Vincent said dismissively. Nothing you need to worry about. But Claire saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was clenched. This was the other Vincent, the one he tried to hide from her, the crime boss who made people disappear. Vincent, she started, but was interrupted by the doorbell. Who would be visiting at 7 in the morning? Lucas appeared from somewhere, hand inside his jacket, where Claire knew a gun was holstered. Boss, he said quietly. It's the Rivera situation. Vincent's entire body went rigid. Claire watched as he transformed completely. The soft, gentle man who'd made her breakfast yesterday vanished, replaced by someone cold and dangerous. Get her upstairs, Vincent ordered Lucas without looking at Claire. Now! Wait, what's happening? Claire protested. Vincent finally looked at her, and his eyes were those of a stranger, flat, emotionless. This is my world, Claire. The part I tried to keep you from seeing. Lucas will take you upstairs. Stay there until I come get you. Don't argue." The command in his voice made her flinch. Lucas gently took her arm, guiding her toward the stairs. As they climbed, Claire looked back to see Vincent opening the door to 3 men in suits, his entire demeanor radiating authority and barely contained violence. Who was this man? And could she really love both sides of him? Hours passed before Vincent came upstairs. When he finally entered Claire's suite, he looked different. The tension was gone from his shoulders, but there was a weariness in his eyes she'd never seen before. "Everything okay?" Claire asked from the window seat where she'd been waiting. Vincent crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms without answering. He held her tightly, face buried in her hair, as if grounding himself. Finally, he pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. "I'm sorry you had to see that. The business side, the ugly side." Claire searched his face. "What happened down there?" Vincent sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed and pulling her down beside him. A rival family trying to muscle in on territory. They missed a payment deadline. "I had to send a message." Claire's stomach twisted. Did anyone get hurt? Vincent's jaw tightened. "Not permanently. But they won't forget." Claire swallowed hard. "This is your life. Every day. Violence. Threats." He nodded, eyes distant. "Every damn day. And I can't change it. Not overnight. Not easily. But I want to," Vincent continued, surprising her. "For you. I've been thinking about it since that first call. Getting out. Or at least scaling back. Legitimate businesses only." Claire's heart leaped. "You mean it?" "Completely. But it takes time. Planning. Trusting the right people. And enemies who won't let go easily." She took his hand. "Then we'll do it together. Step by step." Vincent looked at her like she'd hung the moon. "How did I find you?" "A wrong number. The best wrong number of my life." They spent the rest of the day planning. Quiet conversations about timelines, safe houses, lawyers who could help launder the transition to legitimate businesses. Vincent showed her financial records, property deeds, business plans he'd been quietly developing for years, real estate, construction companies, import-export that was actually clean. Claire saw the man behind the monster, ambitious, strategic, and deeply lonely until now. That night, as they lay tangled in Vincent's massive bed, Claire traced the scar on his eyebrow with her fingertip. "Where did this come from?" Vincent caught her hand, kissing her palm. "Knife fight, 10 years ago, young and stupid, trying to prove myself." She traced the muscles of his chest, feeling the raised scars there too. "How many of these?" "Too many," he murmured, "each one a lesson." Claire propped herself on her elbow. "Tell me one. The worst one." Vincent hesitated, then nodded. "My sister Sophia. The night after her funeral. I went after Leonardo blind with rage. He had backup. 4 guys. I took them all, but not without cost. This," he touched a jagged scar on his ribs. "Knife went deep. Missed my heart by 2 inches. Claire's breath caught. "You almost died. For revenge. For justice," Vincent corrected. "He took everything from me. My baby sister. My parents' light. I couldn't let him walk." Claire kissed the scar gently. "And now," Vincent pulled her closer. "Now I have you, and I won't lose you the way I lost her. Promise me something," Claire whispered. "When you get out, no more violence, no more making people disappear, even for me." Vincent was silent for a long time. Finally he spoke. "I'll promise to try, with everything I have. But some debts have to be paid." Claire nodded against his chest, understanding more than she wanted to. The next few months flew by in a haze of passion and planning. Claire's father responded miraculously to the treatment, entering remission. Vincent methodically dismantled his criminal operations, selling off territories, handing control to trusted lieutenants who promised to go legit. But not everyone was happy. Whispers spread through Chicago's underworld that Vincent Kane was going soft for a woman, and some people don't like change. One crisp autumn evening, Claire was walking home from her shift when a black van screeched to a stop beside her. Before she could scream, rough hands grabbed her. A cloth pressed over her mouth. Chloroform. The world went black. She woke zip-tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. 3 men stood before her, faces masked. The leader stepped forward, pulling off his mask to reveal a scarred face twisted in a sneer. Rocco Moretti, Vincent's most dangerous rival. You should have stayed in your hospital, nurse. Vincent's going down and you're the bait. Claire's heart pounded, but years in the ER had taught her not to panic. What do you want? Rocco laughed cruelly. Vincent's empire. Everything he's built. He'll come for you, and when he does, we end him. And you watch. Claire lifted her chin. He won't come alone. Rocco shrugged. Doesn't matter. We have numbers, weapons, home field advantage. Hours ticked by. Claire worked at her zip ties, managing to loosen them slightly. Finally, headlights pierced the darkness outside. Rocco's men scrambled to positions. Then all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted, shattering the warehouse windows. Vincent's voice boomed through a megaphone. Rocco, you have one chance. Let her go now, and you walk. Silence, then Rocco's mocking laugh. Come get her, Kane. Bullets flew as Vincent's men breached the doors. Claire saw him immediately, black tactical gear, face set in lethal determination. He moved like a predator, every shot precise, every movement economical. Bodies dropped around him. Rocco grabbed Claire, pressing a gun to her temple. One more step and she dies. Vincent froze, eyes locked on hers. Let her go, Rocco. This is between us. Rocco sneered. Too late for negotiations. But Vincent's eyes flicked to something behind Rocco. A faint click, one of Vincent's snipers. Before Rocco could react, a single shot rang out. Rocco's head snapped back, body crumpling. Claire stumbled free as Vincent rushed to her, cutting her ties. You're safe, he breathed, crushing her against him. Claire was shaking, but alive. Let's go home. The aftermath was chaos. Police reports, lawyers, media frenzy. But Vincent's legitimate businesses provided perfect cover. Self-defense, good guys rescuing the damsel from bad guys. Chicago PD, already in Vincent's pocket, closed the case quickly. But Claire saw the toll it took on him. The nightmares, the hypervigilance. One night, as rain pounded the mansion windows, Vincent woke screaming Sophia's name. Claire held him as he shook. I can't lose you too, he whispered. You won't, she promised. But we need to finish this. Get completely out. The next week, Vincent made his final move, sold the last criminal asset, signed papers making him 100% legitimate, a billionaire real estate developer, the most powerful man in Chicago, clean. Claire quit the hospital, using her savings and Vincent's support to open a free clinic for the homeless in Lincoln Park. Her dream, her way of giving back. Vincent attended the ribbon cutting, beaming with pride as she cut the ribbon. That night, at a rooftop dinner overlooking the city, Vincent dropped to one knee. Claire Marie Bennett, he said, voice thick with emotion. You answered a wrong number and changed my life forever. Be my forever. Marry me. tears streamed down Claire's face as she nodded. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was intimate. Just close family and trusted friends on a private beach in Michigan. Claire's father walked her down the aisle, tears in his eyes, healthy, alive. Vincent waited at the altar, eyes shining brighter than she'd ever seen. They said their vows as the sun set over Lake Michigan, promising to love each other through darkness and light. Months later, Claire discovered she was pregnant, a girl. They named her Sophia Marie Kane, after Vincent's sister and Claire's middle name. A new beginning. Claire's father went into full remission. The clinic thrived. Vincent's empire grew legitimately, and their love, forged in the fire of danger and wrong numbers, burned brighter every day. One last wrong number had led to the right everything. Years passed in relative peace, but the shadows of Vincent's past never completely faded. Whispers in Chicago's underworld persisted that the man who'd once ruled with an iron fist had gone soft, that his empire was vulnerable. Rival factions tested boundaries, small incursions into his legitimate businesses that Vincent handled through lawyers and law enforcement rather than bullets. Claire watched him change, watched the predator slowly give way to the protector. Their daughter, Sophia, grew into a bright, fierce little girl with her mother's compassion and her father's intensity. Claire's clinic expanded, becoming a beacon for the city's forgotten, funded by Vincent's real estate profits, but run entirely by her vision. Her father thrived, telling stories of his teaching days to his granddaughter, healthy and whole. One stormy winter night, trouble finally found them again. Claire was tucking Sophia into bed when the power flickered. Vincent was in his study, reviewing contracts, when Lucas burst in without knocking. "Boss, we've got movement." 3 cars, unmarked, heading up the drive, armed. Vincent's old instincts kicked in immediately. No police, not yet. Get Claire and Sophia to the safe room. Lucas nodded, already moving. Vincent grabbed a pistol from his desk drawer, a habit he couldn't quite break, and headed downstairs. Claire met him in the hallway, Sophia clutched in her arms, eyes wide with fear but trusting. "Safe room." "Now," Vincent said, kissing them both fiercely. "I've got this." Claire hesitated. "Vincent, go." "For her." Claire nodded, disappearing down the hall with Lucas. Gunfire shattered the night as Vincent's security team engaged the intruders at the gate. He watched from the security monitors, counting 5 hostiles who breached the perimeter. Old habits died hard. Vincent slipped out a side door, circling through the gardens like a ghost. The first 2 went down silently, precise shots to the legs, non-lethal, the man he was trying to be. But the leader, a scarred veteran from Rocco Moretti's old crew, found him in the shadows. Kane. "Thought you'd gone soft," the man sneered, raising his weapon. Vincent fired first, center mass, self-defense. The last 2 surrendered, hands up, as Vincent's men closed in. Police arrived minutes later, statements given, arrests made, clean, legitimate. But as Vincent walked back to the house, blood on his hands again, he wondered if he'd ever truly escape. Claire waited in the safe room, Sophia asleep on her lap. When Vincent entered, she saw the darkness in his eyes. "It's over?" she asked softly. "For tonight?" He sank beside her, head in her hands. "I almost lost you both. Again." Claire stroked his hair. "But you didn't. Because you're stronger than the darkness." They emerged to flashing police lights, statements given, the mansion secured. In the morning, life resumed. Sophia's laughter echoing through the halls, Claire's clinic patients lining up for care, Vincent closing multi-million-dollar deals. But that night changed something. Vincent sold the mansion, moved them to a fortified penthouse downtown, more security, less exposure. Claire understood, accepted it. Sophia turned 5 in a whirlwind of pink balloons and chocolate cake. Vincent knelt before her, ring still on his finger from their wedding day. "Daddy, why do you look sad sometimes?" she asked, big brown eyes so like his. Vincent smiled through the ache. "Because I love you and Mommy so much, it scares me sometimes." Sophia hugged him tight. "We'll keep you safe, Daddy, just like you keep us safe." Claire watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes. Their family, imperfect, scarred, but whole. Years later, at Sophia's high school graduation, Vincent stood beaming beside Claire. The girl who'd answered a wrong number had built an empire of love from the ashes of his darkness. Chicago's most powerful man, tamed by a nurse's compassion and a little girl's trust. And every night as they lay together, Vincent whispered the same words, "Don't ever hang up on me." Claire smiled into the darkness. Never. The wrong number that changed everything. There forever. If this story hit you right in the feels, imagine getting a call at 3 a.m. that changes your life forever. What would you do? Drop in the comments. Would you hang up or say hello to destiny? Share your craziest wrong number story below. Did it lead to love, trouble, or just awkward silence? Smash that subscribe button and join our family of story lovers. We drop these heart-pounding tales every week, and your support means we keep the magic coming. Tell us what you learned about second chances today, like for more Mafia romance epics.